Welcome everyone to the Regional Landscapes Pitching Competition. We all know this was meant to happen at the 2020 Screenworks Conference up in Ballina, and all chops to Hayley Toth and Ivan Vukusic from AACTA for getting this digital reworking of it up. I'm very excited to be involved. I was going to compare the original, and I love a live audience, so I was looking forward to that. But I can look directly at all the faces, and it makes it even much more fun. I want to first welcome everyone. If you don't know who I am, my name is Pete CASTALDI. I was a one-time ABC producer, presenter, and broadcaster, working essentially covering the screen industries. I now live up in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, not far down the road from Lisa O'Meara from Screenworks, and just around the corner from Ken Crouch, also from Screenworks. I'm a member of that organisation. You all should be. It's absolutely fabulous. And also a big fan and supporter of AACTA for all the work that they do. So it's fabulous that they've come together to kind of make this happen. I really want to welcome everyone, our judges in particular, Deb Cox, Michelle Bennett, Amanda Duthie, who will hopefully join us fairly soon, and Ari Harrison. Thanks for coming on board. And all of our finalists, Amanda Bridgman, who's pitching The Artisan, Anna Lindner, who's pitching Big Things, Georgina Jenkins, pitching Blackbird, Sam Laughton, pitching The Boundary Rider, and Timothy Walker, with GRETEL, VELLA sitting on the side, pitching A Sunburnt Christmas. I wish all of the finalists all of the best. I'm now going to hand over to Ivan Vukusic, who's the awards manager for AACTA, to say a few words.
Great, thanks Pete. And thanks everyone for joining us here today. Many thanks to our esteemed panel of judges, and congratulations once more to our deserved finalists. Like Pete was saying, man, it's a shame we aren't congregating at what would have been a wonderful seminar in Ballina, but good to see everyone here in our new virtual world and ready to get into some good pitching. AACTA Pitch was launched in 2017 as a way to help unearth, profile and support emerging and diverse talent. And I'm very happy to say that this most recent iteration, Pitch Regional Landscapes, in partnership with Screenworks, has been one of our most successful competitions to date. The response was massive. We received a record number of entries, and the quality was particularly high. And really great to see the high volume of great ideas coming from regional Australia in particular. Not only is regional Australia the inspiration to the stories that we'll get a glimpse of today, it's also home to a wealth of talented and proactive storytellers, and that is due in no small part to the critical work of Screenworks. So with that, I'd like to throw to Ken Crouch, CEO of Screenworks. Ken.
Thanks, Ivan. I'm going to be really quick. I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and pay my respects to them and their culture and elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge and thank Ivan and his team at AACTA for their work on this project. It's a fantastic partnership to be a part of, and I'm really grateful to everyone involved in the project especially for their flexibility and all of their hard work in making sure that we've been able to deliver the whole project, especially this final stage of a project, which is very different to what we'd initially envisaged for it way back at the end of last year. I want to say a big thanks from Screenworks to the judges for their time today and their involvement in the project, and also their flexibility in coming online. And also to the people who will be pitching today, congratulations on being selected out of such a large group of people. And good luck to all of you with your pitches that we're really looking forward to see. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the Screenworks team, especially Lisa O'Meara for her work, and also the rest of the team. I know Amy's actually watching in on this as well, on this project. But also for all of the work that they actually put into preparing the business of producing seminar. we were completely gutted when we had to cancel it. We thought, we really truly believed that it was going to be one of the best events that we'd ever done. And we were certainly looking forward to this pitching competition to be a part of that. We're currently looking at what sessions from that 3-day event that we can bring online during this period of time that we're affected by the coronavirus pandemic. We'll keep everyone updated on our social media channels, so please keep an eye out for that. But that's it for me. Good luck to the pitchers, and I'll hand back to Peter.
Thanks, Ken. So I'm now going to introduce all of the judges except for Amanda, who we're still waiting to arrive. And I'm just going to read from something that Screenworks and AACTA sent me, just so we understand how the panel was selected. All of the judges have experience producing features, but we chose this mix as they represent a range of perspectives and being complementary experience to the judging panel, as well as producing. The unique expertise that each judge brings includes Deb Cox, a screenwriter and creative producer, and for many, many years, and also probably responsible for raising the housing values of coastal regions in Australia. Unintentionally, I'm sure.
That was definitely an accident.
Definitely an accident, but you know, we'll live with it. Michelle Bennett, as an independent producer with a slate of critically acclaimed feature films, the last of which was absolutely superb. I hope you've all seen it. Amanda Duthie, as a festival curator, working in production investment, and also commissioning for broadcast. So they are the 3 judges who sit in the before release, if you like, creative realm. They're the people who have experience in investment, in writing, producing, and bringing projects to the screen. Now, once those projects are produced, there is the distributor who has to take those projects on board. And representing Umbrella Entertainment is Ari Harrison, who's head of acquisition. And that relationship, many of us will know, some of you may not know, is one that becomes very, very important in releasing the film. So all of the relationships represented on this judging panel are key to delivering a project, not just to get it made, but to get it in front of audiences. And that's what makes the panel quite exceptional. So thank you all for being a part of it. Would any of you like to chuck in a few words? I'll work through you on the list as I go through. Deb, did you want to say anything before we head into the pictures?
I've lived in the Northern Rivers for 23 years now. And so I've always been part of Screenworks. So I'm amazed that AACTA and Screenworks, everyone, I'm amazed you pulled this together. It's pretty impressive. Glad you didn't let it just disappear, because I'm sure there's a lot of work put in by all the participants. So I've been living here for 23 years, commuting for most of that to Melbourne, do a lot of television writing and production and originating, but also feature films. And I've always said very apologetically, I've only done like two and a half films. I co-wrote one, and there's been a long gap between them. But then I recently looked up how many women have made films, and it's, I think, something like 50 since the beginning of the Australian screen industry. So we definitely have to change that.
Thanks, Deb. Michelle?
Hi, everyone, and good luck today. I'm also really thrilled that it's all still happening. I was really looking forward to coming to Screenworks. I think it's a great initiative, and thanks to AACTA AFI for their involvement as well. Yeah, I'm in Sydney. I've been working in feature films and more recently television with a show called Mystery in Between, which I've loved producing. So yeah, enjoy both mediums. And you know, I'm always interested in upcoming talent. You know, what new ideas are coming forward, and new writers, new directors, producers. I'm really keen to hear the pitches today. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Amanda, welcome.
Hey, everyone. I know this is a much more unusual way of doing it, but just remember, you guys are the pioneers. This is how it's all going to be. Series Mania is now online. We have Cinematheques happening on a digital level. So now we're doing pitching via Zoom. So congratulations, good luck. And yes, remember your stories of this experience will be incredibly useful to a whole lot of other people. Really excited to be hearing directly from you today about the projects that you've sent in. Congratulations on being shortlisted. My current role is head of fiction at SBS, so back in the engine room of broadcasting and commissioning TV series, but prior to that have commissioned on other broadcasters and features and VR and shorts and ran a film event in Adelaide. So I wish you luck, and I can't wait to hear your projects come live.
Thanks, Amanda. Ari.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here. It's so awesome seeing this whole setup like this. I think it's working pretty well so far. Just as a bit of an overview, I have been head of acquisitions at Umbrella for about 3 years now, but been with Umbrella for about 5. We're based in Melbourne. At the moment, the way we're progressing is very theatrical. Everything that we want to do is very much based around Australian content. I mean, looking at our upcoming slate, we have about 8 films that are ready or in post-production that are Australian films. We have about 5 in pre-production and 5 that are just going through financing. So we're getting there slowly but surely. And with all these changes, everything's just adapting. But I love hearing pitches. It's awesome. It's great to see the creativity flowing, and we want to be a part of it as much as we can.
Thanks, Ari. So now I'm just going to introduce each of the pitches. And as I call you out, can you just give us a wave so the judges get a first kind of glimpse of you? So Amanda Bridgman pitching The Artisan.
Hello.
And Lindner pitching Big Things.
Hi.
Georgina Jenkins pitching Blackbird.
That's me.
Sam Lawton pitching The Boundary Rider.
Hey.
And Tim Walker pitching A Sunburnt Christmas.
Hi.
Okay, so here we go. With our first pitch, The Artisan from Amanda Bridgman.
When was the last time you did something just for you to make yourself happy? This is something I want the audience of The Artisan to think about. The Artisan is a heartfelt comedy drama about what happens when an eternally optimistic cupcake baker and a loner street artist combine their oddly complementary talents to save their dying country town. The Artisan is a story about love, loss, inner happiness, and community spirit. It's about Kelly, our young heroine, who has never allowed herself to grieve the loss of her mother, and our hero, Jack, who conversely won't let go of the grief from his father's death. What they both discover when they finally get past the isolation in which they live is that spray paint and icing sugar really do make the world a better and more beautiful place. In fact, it's infectious, as their fellow townsfolk discover, and they begin to turn their run-down outback country town into a quirky oasis in the desert. In short, we have 2 lonely people who initially find solace in their different forms of creative expression, but they soon build a connection with each other, a friendship and a budding romance, which leads them to the final release of their grief. While Jack teaches Kelly that it's okay to be sad sometimes, that it's okay to be weak and not in control, Kelly teaches Jack that even in the bad times, there is still beauty and happiness to be found in life. I've been working on this idea in one way or another for a couple of years, but I think now more than ever is the time to tell this story. We all get caught up in our day-to-day lives, work, relationship, kids, and we often sacrifice the little things, hobbies and such, that once granted us personal happiness. The world is a really tough place right now, and it's times like these we need to turn to our creative expressions and tend to our inner happiness, because that's what keeps us afloat. And in turn, it's this happiness which flows out into our communities, making them a better place to live. This is the motivation that's at the heart of this film. This is the journey that we see Jack, Kelly, and the townsfolk experience. My hope is that The Artisan is the kind of uplifting story that will leave its audience with a golden glitter smile on their faces, a bit of inspiration, and a life-affirming challenge to crack back out whatever it is they've put on the shelf. It's time for people to dust off the pursuits that grant them their inner happiness, which is exactly what this film invites its audience to do. I'm so pleased to be able to share The Artisan with you. I've really enjoyed developing it this far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes next. Hopefully, with guidance from this panel, Emma Jensen and the Pathways program. Having written novels for many years now, I know how much stronger stories are because of the feedback and support of experienced and knowledgeable practitioners. I want to learn, I want to become a better writer, and this is a great opportunity for me to do that and for my film, The Artisan, to benefit in the process. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you to AACTA and Screenworks for this wonderful opportunity.
Thanks, Amanda. Judges, do you have any follow-up questions? Amanda.
Yes, unmuting myself. Thank you so much. Thanks for going first. That's always a big deal. I mean, honestly, it could be a documentary when you're talking about, you know, small towns, small communities, finding joy at home, finding joy within the community. I think that's what we're all trying to find at the moment. I'm sure there is a lot of cupcake baking going on. So it's a transformation not just of those individuals, but also the community and the township. My question is, and they've obviously both got their own grief that they're dealing with, but what is the conflict within the town? What are they both needing to overcome to get to that point, to be able to paint the town red with a little bit of cupcake glitter?
For the majority of the film, it's Kelly kind of driving the truck. She's the only positive one in the town because of the drought, everyone's very down, but she's the one who's failed to give up hope. And in part, it's because that her mother and her younger brother passed away, and she's absolutely terrified that her father and her older sister will also give up hope like her mother did. So she has to overcome this need to constantly take care of other people and put herself last. And Jack is very self-absorbed at the start of the film, and he needs to overcome the selfishness. He needs to let go of his grief and for once in his life consider others and do things for other people. And then externally we have the town. There's a rivalry with another town who keep trying to thwart Lyndon Plains' progress in trying to fix up the town and win back the regional fair.
And who do you think the audience is for the?
Honestly, I think the audience is someone like me. I'm 43, soon to be turning 44. So normally I go for sci-fi and thrillers, but I also do love a good comedy drama and a romantic comedy. And this is something, because there's such a diverse cast of characters, yes, the two mains are in their late teens, but we also have Jack's mum, Sam, who's in her 40s, Ben, the cattle station owner, who's in his 40s, and we've got the various secondary characters who are all the way up into their 70s, who provide a lot of the quirky comedy aspects to it. But there's basically something for everyone, I think.
Yeah, but two teenage leads, yeah?
Two teenage leads, yeah. Late teens.
Yep. Thank you.
Ari, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good for now, thanks.
Deb?
Yeah, I did want to ask you about the significance, which you've answered a little bit of, the significance of actually making cupcakes, and also the significance of the graffiti and what it means kind of, I guess, psychoanalytically, psychologically for those two characters. But I think you've answered that a little bit in answering Amanda's thing. I guess it's maybe just talk a little bit more about Jack's inability to articulate his grief.
Yeah, so I thought a great way we can also display that is the artwork he paints in the town, which I've said graffiti art and street art, and there's a couple of different pathways I could go with the artwork depending on a producer's preference. But what I really love about the artwork for Jack is that we can show his transformation through his art as well as his personal actions. At the start, his art can be quite cold and maybe a little cynical or sarcastic, but towards the end, it has real truth and beauty. And that's something that he's learned through his journey in this town.
And I also wanted to ask you about the time scale of that, writing books. As you know, having adapted a lot of books as well, the time frame that you're working within a book is often very different to what you want to do in a movie. So in your mind, what is the time frame of the movie, like from beginning to end? How much real time? Because you're going to have to grapple with those. Everyone's going through transitions, the town, the characters. So what time do you imagine it taking up?
I actually have it taking place over the course of couple of weeks, probably 2-3 weeks. Because Kelly ropes Jack into helping paint the Artisan Cafe, he starts doing that, and the rest of the townsfolk kind of see this amazing cafe popping with life and colour in the dead street, and it kind of gets them thinking, and it certainly gets the new mayor really ramped up to say, hey, come on, if Kelly and Jack can do this with the cafe, we can do this with the rest of the town. And so some, although they're a little bit begrudgingly dragged along at the start, they kind of get into it. And for instance, Kelly's dad cracks out his carpentry skills. He's made a lot of the stuff around the farm, but he hasn't touched anything for years since the mother's died. He starts doing it to help Kelly out, but then realises just how much he loves doing this. And similarly, her sister's a florist, but of course it's the drought, nothing will really grow. But Kelly convinces her to start doing works of art with native flowers that will grow. So they each kind of a little bit begrudging in the start, but they start doing something and they realise how much happiness it brings them. And so it just kind of flows out from there.
Thank you.
Michelle.
I don't have any questions. Thanks for the pitch.
Thank you, Amanda. Our next finalist, Anna Lindner with Big Things.
Welcome to the Big Pineapple. Step on board the Sweet Pineapple Express, where all of your tropical dreams come true. This is the place of dreams, especially if your name is Stevie Kelly and you've been dreaming of it since you were 6 years old. Sure, maybe she's 29 now, but she still knows that she's destined for big things. And the only thing bigger than the Big Pineapple is a little thing called the Toowoomba National Roller Skating Tournament. It's 1990, the beginning of a new decade, the promise of new things. This is it, a whole new shot at life. If only Stevie's skates weren't stuck in the red dirt of a highway off of Broken Hill, working in a shitty roadside diner. No savings, no car, no license, no way out. All she has is a finely honed routine to Stevie Nicks' age of 17, right down to the finest hair flick and spirit finger. Until a chance encounter with her estranged ex-crim father grants her an opportunity out of there. Once the national face of car racing, now fresh out of prison, her dad is determined to make amends by promising her the road trip across Australia she was denied as a child, to see her ultimate list of big things. Dressed sharp, with a sports car and a boot full of mobile phones for his new business venture, Stevie knows this is her one shot at the tournament. But not long into their adventure, Stevie starts to see holes in her dad's story, and she starts to question the real motives behind this road trip. There's a couple of things he hasn't told her, namely that there's a serious amount of cash stashed nearby the Big Pineapple, the car and the contents are all stolen, and once again, he's on the run from the law, and he's about to die. A slow, painful death at the fate of motor neurons disease. His body is a time bomb, and he's damn sure he's not going to spend his last breath in a prison cell, which means asking his daughter for the ultimate favour, to quickly, humanely end his life. And maybe she'll agree, but not before she takes out third place in the Toowoomba Skate Nationals. This film celebrates the uniqueness of regional culture. It presents the Australian landscape as the ultimate lead character, full of contrast, from the dry earth of inland Australia to the lush tropical growth of the East Coast, One minute she favours your survival, the next she will test your limits. And for me personally, after watching my own dad be taken from terminal cancer and my best friend, Big Things is a story about family, forgiveness and dignity, ultimately posing the question, what line would you cross for someone that you truly love?
Thanks, Anna. Amanda, do you have any questions?
Yes. Yes. So the Big Things, always fascinating. People will absolutely respond to having a tour of all of the big things. It's a shame you're not going to go to the South Australian one with the big slug, the earthworm, I should say, which was like an enormous poo, apparently, in the middle of the desert. Anyway, when you're talking, when I read what you've sent in, I read Stevie as younger. Why have you chosen that age group? I know there will need to be sort of not a teenager, obviously, with assisted suicide or whatever it comes to at the end of the story. But why that 29?
Yeah, because I genuinely want this to be a story about a woman who should have her shit together. She should be she's in an age where people will judge you heavily if you haven't made it in life. It's a really important subject for me because I personally feel like a large chunk of my life was put on hold through the process of becoming a palliative carer for my dad. And I feel like I'm picking up where I should have been developing like 10 years ago. I also believe that there are women out there that will completely relate, that are in this age bracket, over 30 years old, that genuinely don't feel like they're adulting well enough in society's eyes. That's why I need her to be in that 29 and heading to 30 category.
That's good to know. And is her dad there when she comes third in Toowoomba?
Yes, he is, yeah.
Is that the end? Is that how the film resolves?
No, that's not how the film resolves. She does end up assisting him dying, but they also accidentally set one of the monuments on fire. So he ends up kind of going in a ball of flames, which also sets her on a new set of adventures, running from the law herself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Ari, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just in regards to Stevie's father. So it seems like he's not actually really just a bad guy. He's more of just somebody who's made some bad decisions along the way, and he's trying to rectify it with Stevie. Is that right?
Absolutely. I really want him to be a character that is perceived. If we were to see him on the street, we would judge him heavily. The fact that he spent a great chunk of his life in prison already sets him up for huge judgment, but he's just never really cut it in society, and he's tried to make do. And he's one of those people who, he's kind of a jester in life. He's so good at looking at the positive and believing in a cup half full, but everything that he tries ends up slamming back in his face. And he always ends up making kind of the shit hit the fan for everybody that he loves in the process. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And just one more, in regards to the tone of the film, how do you see it? Is it more of a sort of drama, or is it a bit of a sort of maybe a dark comedy? I mean, how do you see that?
It's definitely dark, as is most of my work, but it's always completely filled. And I think the bloodline is comedy in it. So we're dealing with actually a lot heavier subject matters hidden behind comedy. I would say tonally, you could relate it to Hunt for the Wilder People. So it's absolutely full of heart. They're on the run the whole time. they're not the loveliest humans in the world, but they are absolutely trying to survive from where they are in the world.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anna.
Michelle.
I had a question about, a couple of questions actually. How long is it since Stevie and her father have been, you know, in touch with each other? How long is it since they've connected?
25 years, but he has sent postcards to her in that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And is his main reason for reconnecting with her to make amends, or is the main reason that he just needs someone that close to him to do this final thing for him?
Yeah. I think, like anybody, he has an idea of what his motives are, but as any human being, what's lying behind those motives is something much deeper. Ultimately, he genuinely wants to connect with his daughter. What he perceives within his time frame is that he needs to get the money that's owed to him, and he needs his daughter to help him end his life. But it's actually about genuinely rebuilding a connection with his daughter.
Right. And the first time that we see him is when he sees her again?
Yes. Yeah. And we don't actually know in the first scene that they are related at all, but it is established very quickly after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Right. Thanks, Anna.
Oh, sorry. Can I?
Yeah, sorry, Deb.
I just wanted to ask. Hello. I just want to ask a couple of questions. One of them is a bit irritating, but it's a question I'm always asked because I do a lot of period drama, and it's why period, because you always have to justify it. And the other one is a bit related to what Michelle was asking. I wanted to, you say in your treatment that she says that she can hardly refuse him to go on this journey, but of course she could. So I wanted to know what changes for her from the beginning of that journey to the end. Yes, just those two. Okay,
so I'll just answer the first question first. So in relation to it being, even though the 90s, it seems weird to think of it as a period piece, it absolutely is. Partly because of my own obsession with that era and what that's represented in my life. So I'm obviously writing from my own experience. To me, the beginning of the 90s represented the change, the possibility of change. It offered the beginning of a whole new way of communicating with the world. And I really saw it as a time where people got to move up in their concepts of themselves, like to elaborate. It's when we became more of a global culture. So we went from Expo 88, being very proud of our Australianness, and it was the first time where things really became international, like the elements of MTV culture and all of that, and fashion influencing Australian culture a lot quicker. The speed of everything picked up. So for me, it's really about a personal love of that era and the magic that represented for me. In response to your second question, can you just clarify for me can you just say that again?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I was just asking, what do you see? Because she doesn't refuse her dad when he asked her to come on this journey with him. How do you envisage her attitude to him changing from the beginning of the film to the end?
Yeah. So I really need to establish that she is, bless her, she's quite naive and is living in a dream world up until her 29th birthday. The idea of the best in people is still that's her modus operandi. So when she sees her father, she doesn't know his history. She doesn't know the shitty things that took him to prison. She's been protected from that. So in all of their communication, he has made himself out to be someone that he's not, someone that would be an ideal father if they were together. So the anticipation of ever seeing him again sets her up for being fooled into that invitation from the get-go. So it works in reverse. She actually starts to lose respect for him as the journey goes on, which makes it even harder when they then realise that they do have a bond to have to go ahead with that action of helping him terminate his life.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Now, our next finalist is Georgina Jenkins with Blackbird.
Blackbird is a heartwarming comedy drama about feisty 69-year-old Greek woman Despina, who's been married to a bully of a man for 50 years, is estranged from her daughter, and whose only joy comes from country music and her black cockatoo Angel. When her husband dies, Despina is finally free to go on the cruise to Greece she's secretly been saving for all these years. If only she could remember where she hid the money. Her daughter is certain there is no money, her mother has dementia, and less than best practice food hygiene was the likely cause of her father's death. So she places Despina into aged care in Canberra and plans to sell her parents' South Coast home. Now Despina must persuade Chiara, her 19-year-old Indigenous carer, a petty criminal on a good behaviour bond, to bust her out, drive her 300 kilometres home and find her life savings before the house is sold. For a reward, of course. Chiara is reluctant to jeopardise her court order, but her mother forces her hand, joining them as getaway driver in Despina's husband's vintage Holden Monaro. Taking the back roads to evade police, they run out of petrol and are rescued by a charming Indigenous ranger who helps them track Angel through the bush after she escapes. It's a journey of spiritual awakening for Despina and Chiara. When they do get to Despina's house, they find nothing. The police are closing in to arrest Chiara, and Despina must confront the possibility she does have dementia. But ultimately, this is a tale of redemption. Despina stands up to Chiara's bully of a mother, as she should have to her own husband. And when she does find the money, hidden in Angel's cage all along, she sacrifices her own dreams for Chiara's. Blackbird is an uplifting, coming-of-age road movie in the tone of Hunt for the Wilder People and Little Miss Sunshine. It's about an unlikely friendship forged by a love of music, which has a profound effect on those with dementia. A friendship that empowers Despina to find peace and reconcile with her daughter, and Chiara to break the cycle of poverty and follow her dreams of being a musician. It explores the diaspora for first-generation migrants and Indigenous Australians and the common thread of disconnect to country, culture and language. It also explores the theme of freedom against the backdrop of Australia's wide-open landscapes and boundless ocean. While the regeneration of the bushfire-ravaged national parks symbolises both Despina's and Chiara's awakening and the resilience of Australia's Indigenous culture. Blackbird is aimed at women 50 plus, their daughters and partners. It will also appeal to vintage car enthusiasts, those caring for loved ones with dementia, and Australia's retirement and Greek communities. Now more than ever, with everything going on in the world, we need stories that remind us of what truly binds us. Blackbird is one of those stories. Thank you.
So over to the judges again. Amanda, do you have any questions?
Georgie, will you, thank you so much for that. Great to see stories coming out of the South Coast and Canberra. That's really, really exciting. Will you be working with an Indigenous screen creative in terms of those storylines and characters?
Absolutely. So I've partnered with an Indigenous producer. And I've also had a pass done by an award-winning Indigenous writer, and I've reached out to an elder in the Yuin Nation, but there's a lot of rebuilding going on there at the moment, so I'm still waiting to forge that relationship, but that's all in progress at the moment.
Yeah. Good. And who is the audience for this film? You've talked about, you know, the themes and how it will resonate. But who do you think specifically the audience is for the film?
So it's women aged 50 plus,
Yeah.
their daughters, and their partners.
Yeah.
And then there are those sort of specific niche audiences that we've been looking into to try to build kind of community with, like car enthusiasts, the dementia sector. There's like 200,000 families looking after people with dementia. There's our 400,000 strong Greek community. So I see a lot of niche audiences as well as the South Coast and other regional communities seeing stories about their region.
Hi, Georgina.
Hi, Ari. I've got to tell you, my son's called Ari.
What was your inspiration behind putting this together?
Well, the character of Despina is loosely based on my mother. My mother is a Greek immigrant. She left Crete when she was 17 years old, and in nearly 60 years, she's never been back, which is something about Despina that is very, very important to her, and she's never been able to do that because of her domineering husband. So a lot of the characters of Despina are based on my mother, who doesn't have dementia, but I have a lot of close friends and family who are dealing with loved ones with dementia. So, but the inspiration for me is the mother-daughter relationship. So we've got Despina and her estranged daughter, and then we've got Chiara and her difficult relationship with her mother. So I see Despina and Chiara as kind of being sort of surrogate mother-daughter relationship, where they can learn the other perspective from each other and try and make sense of that in their own relationship.
Great, fantastic, thank you.
Deb?
Yeah, I was interested to know why you changed the, and I think you've just answered it. In your treatment, you had Marley as the older sister, and now in the car with her, and now it's the mother, and that's obviously why, is it? Because you wanted to mirror that relationship.
Yeah, it came to me at some point that seemed to make sense. So I finished the first draft of the screenplay since I submitted for this, and that's what came out of that work.
Yeah, and also, and I really think it's really interesting that racism. I live with an Italian who has that, that background, which is similar to the Greek migrant experience, and the racism in that community. I find it's great because they suffered so much themselves in the 50s, and everything goes in cycles. And
it's ironic,
it's
isn't it?
interesting. It's an interesting, interesting thing to tap into. But I didn't have any other questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
Yep.
No, my question was also about the inspiration for the story, but you've answered that with Ari, so thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina. Now to Sam Lawton and The Boundary Rider.
The Boundary Rider is a true story dedicated to my great-grandmother, Kitty, and dedicated to the power of women. It is emotive, unrelenting, and a story of strength and survival. Alone for months on end in solitude in the harshest and most unforgiving desert country one could ever imagine, Kitty, an institutionalized Aranda woman, rides the boundary line, the endless barbed fence of the oldest and wealthiest Australian cattle station in this country's history, risking life every day for the privileged that now stake claim to her grandfather's country, taken, not given. Raped, beaten, and emotionally bruised at the hand of the boss man, the character I have adapted from my great-grandmother, Catherine Kitty Crawford, one of the best stock women of the Eastern Desert, whose story has been lost to the darkest Australian history, we continue to sweep under the rug. A film in the vein of Iñárritu's The Revenant and Australia's Sweet Country, with minimal dialogue, exceptional cinematography, breathtaking landscape, and musical compositions that strike the right chord, we weave a story of great courage, wisdom, and self-voyage amongst the toughest elements of life-risking events to survive the boundary ride. Intertwining the elders' wisdom of songlines, medicine, and country, remembering her grandfather and a deep resonance of an untouched, parallel version of herself that could have been, Kitty navigates the land and life, finding all the resources and resolutions to survive. Culture becomes refuge as she forgets her assimilated life and takes on the spirit of ancestors to live. From snake bites to snag skin, kangaroo skin water bags, being cruel to be kind on the young stock entrapped in the fence, haunting memories, extreme hunger, dehydration, bush narcotic-induced hallucinations, and the dream about the featherfoot that brings the dead back to life. There is a continuum to the storyline that will bring you into a deep vortex of the Boundary Rider. A showcase of ancient cultural knowledge and 100,000 years of survival is celebrated. We take the collective spirit on a journey, both as raw as the harshest of realities and mystical as the dreamtime, against the backdrop of one of the oldest and deeply spiritual landscapes in this world. Like a main protagonist in the plot, the landscape speaks to us all on the deepest of levels. The Boundary Rider is based on a true series of events and some very real experiences of hundreds of Aboriginal stock women and men that risk life to ride and check the fence lines of some of the most profitable cattle stations in Australian history for nothing, no wage, no recognition. Inspired by my great-grandmother, a woman stolen as a child and made a slave and turned out as a seasoned stockwoman during the 1930s assimilation. The relief from station life and institutionalisation became the ride, back on country, where she is connected with country and grandfather talking to her.
Cool.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Amanda, do you have any questions for Sam?
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Is Kitty running away from the boss, or is she searching for revenge? Like, in which direction is she riding the fence?
Okay, so we actually start with one of her first rides out onto the boundary line. So they go out to up to 3 months totally solo on the line. So Kitty's come from an institutionalized existence where she basically has been disconnected from culture and country. And so she's going out there as an enslaved woman to do a particular job. But in that process, that institutionalization is stripped back off her as she actually reconnects with her ancestors, remembering grandfather's words and actually reconnecting with ancestors and spirit on the journey. So it's actually coming from an institutionalized Aranda woman back to what it is to be a true Aranda woman. So that whole process is that stripping back. And it no longer becomes, even though we've got moments of the haunting history and the abuse and certain things that she has endured, we actually see her transform. So it doesn't actually become about revenge or anything like that. It's actually becoming her true self.
So the film is her out on the boundary, and she doesn't physically go back to the farm. It's all happens in flashback.
It all happens in flashbacks. So we actually start on the boundary line and we end on the boundary line. And then there's some moments and things that happen along the way. But she does go back to the station in memories, yes, flashback.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Ari, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Hi, Sam. Who do you see as the audience for this sort of film?
So our audience obviously speaks to women, but I've actually amalgamated the character of Kitty is actually parts of my own personal story and journey, that of my great-grandmother, who it is actually based on, my grandparents, who were both institutionalized. So we're covering 3 generations of thought and history that's coming into the story. But we've got elements in the story that are dramatic, you could even say science fiction at some stages. It's about healing, medicine, there's mysticism. So I feel that it actually speaks to a lot of different age groups and both non-Indigenous and Indigenous Australians.
Sure, great, thank you.
Deb?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing story. It's amazing history you've got to draw on with your great-grandmother. I was wondering just what your intentions are with the kind of story structure of it. It feels like it has, you can see it and feel it. It feels like it has a very kind of mesmeric, kind of beautiful rhythm to it out in the landscape. and there are obviously many challenges that you know about and you've heard about that she went through. Do you see there as being one kind of major, I'm just interested structurally how you see it. Do you see it as a linear kind of journey that accumulates as it goes, a kind of meditation, or do you see it more as something that has there is a major challenge in it? And if there is, what is that?
No, I would say the way that you've put it there, it would lean more towards the building up. It's more of a build. There are significant things that sort of happened to both herself, even the death of her grandfather, which she goes back and sees, which was a big catalyst for some other things that occur along the way. But in relation to, is it the one big explosive moment? Not so much. It's a building journey. Sorry, if I...
yeah. No. Thank you. That's helpful just to understand what you're setting out to do.
Yeah, it's got a continuum of things that I feel that build more understanding and depth and connection with the character and audience. But yeah, I don't feel that there's one sort of big crescendo per se, and it sort of leaves you with a little bit of an open end, if you like.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have any questions for Sam?
Yeah, thanks. I agree with Deb that it sounds like you've got a lot to draw on, and you know, more of this type of story I think needs to be told. I was just wondering how you would illustrate her spiritual, taking on the spirit of the ancestors you were talking about. Is that because there's not much dialogue and she's there on her own? Is that mostly conveyed through voiceover of her grandfather? Correct.
So there'll be actual voiceover of grandfather speaking in Aranda language with this subtitle. So it's like she draws upon him for the guidance, but there's also this aspect of almost like the landscape speaking to her. Sorry, could I just get you to react?
I was just wondering how you did illustrate her taking on or reconnecting with her spiritual ancestors, or her spirituality, or her, her background.
So it is that connection to grandfather, and she remembers like different song lines and things that he had taught her. So when different challenges and things come to pass, he's guiding her along that way and that journey. But the main thing for this is it's a strong women's story. So she's learnt in a sort of unconventional way, because to our mob it's always woman down to woman. So there's been this disconnect because of the separation from family. So she's drawing on grandfather, but then we've also got, and this is probably going to throw people a little bit, but we've got interjections of a parallel version of her which is untouched, living an actual existence that wasn't disrupted, where she has that connection with spirit and culture, and that's sort of shadowing her along the journey. And there's moments that it's displayed like through the use of like a particular narcotic, pidgeri, which is a bush tobacco out there, which closes all your sweat pores down, so you can walk for 14 hours. And things like this too. So it's the use of medicine and different things that display that knowledge coming out, hunting, and also the appearance of the medicine man that actually fixes her up at one stage. So yeah, it's like a self journey and a learning. Yeah, that's hope.
Okay, great. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. Now to our ultimate finalists. Tim Walker with the Sunburnt Christmas.
I'm just stuck out. We have some room.
A Sunburnt Christmas is Australia's first Netflix original Christmas film, but unlike most Christmas flicks, it's set in outback Australia. Swap snow with sun, pine with gum, and reindeer with kangaroos. The story is centred around Sam Rayleigh, a single father of two and a cattle farmer. An optimist at heart, years of drought, debt, and the recent death of his wife Marcy have left Sam a Christmas pessimist. To make matters worse, an evil mining company are about to seize Sam's land to build their new coal processing plant. Now, every year, a week before Christmas, Santa goes on a test flight around the world. But this year, as he flies over Australia, global warming and intense bushfire smoke push his reindeer to exhaustion, and they crush land on Sam's property. Sam is deeply skeptical that this is Santa, but his children, Tom and Lily, are soon convinced. A race against time begins, as Sam tries to save his farm whilst the kids try to get Santa and his reindeer back to the North Pole. They ask the townsfolk, including a local pilot, for help, but times are tough, and most people aren't thinking about Christmas this year. Defeated, the children slump at the Longreach Airport, the birthplace of Qantas, and that's when they see it, a flying kangaroo. With no time to spare, they round up a team of wild kangaroos, and with a little magic from Santa, they teach the kangaroos to fly. Just as Sam is about to sign over the farm to the mining company, his kids and 12 kangaroos fly past. With Santa still unable to take the reins, Sam tears up the contract, puts on the big red suit, and takes to the sky, finally choosing to be a father over a farmer. When Sam returns, Santa promises the family any gift they want, to which they reply, rain. Smiling, Santa says, I can't make it rain, but I can make it snow. And snow starts to fall in outback Australia, where of course it turns to water, the drought is broken, and Christmas is saved. We've set A Sunburnt Christmas in Longreach because the setting itself acts as a complicated character and one of the film's antagonists. It's definitely a love-hate relationship. The land is beautiful with the red earth, the sweeping farms and the endless horizons, but it's also arid, stubborn, and will fight Sam every step of the way. Our setting is also filled with colourful characters. You only need to wander into the local pubs up there like the Birdie or the Tab to see what I mean. Longreach is also the birthplace of Qantas, the flying kangaroo, the spirit of Australia and the spirit of our film. When we looked at the canon of Christmas films, Australia doesn't really feature heavily, and there's never been an Australian Netflix original Christmas film. And it's a really lucrative market. Last year, Netflix made 9 original Christmas films, and one of those, Klaus, was viewed by 19% of its entire subscriber base in 1 month. So like Netflix, our intended audience is 18 to 34-year-old millennials, because according to Netflix, the genre's popularity with this age bracket is down to the state of our world. There's a certain safety to be found in familiar structures, childhood comforts, and festive reminders of what really counts. A Sunburnt Christmas embraces these traits. It's a film about hope, about resilience, but most importantly, about family.
Whoa! Amanda, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much, Tim. So it's not animated, it's live action.
Oh, no, definitely live action.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You know, Christmas films are as popular as coal. No, they're not. The opposite of popular coal. It sounds really fun, and I think if you wanted to sort of join that stable of Netflix Christmas films, you know, it would have to follow a fairly familiar structure, as most of those films do. So it's a very classic family film, and you're right, we don't have a whole lot in Australia. So I think that's really exciting that you've done that. And in terms of who's the baddie? I mean, obviously the coal company is, but who personifies that in the narrative?
Yeah, so we've got we've been developing it since we pitched it, and we have initially it started off as one miner, but now we're thinking we'd love to see a mining couple, and we were thinking it would be great to have like a Gina Riley, Richard Roxburgh teaming up to be this mining conglomerate that on the surface appear to be really friendly, and they're there for the town. This will create jobs, but what the town and what Sam don't know is that they're siphoning water off from the Thompson River to build their plant. So whilst they appear to be like here to help the town, what they're really doing is deceitful, and only when Sam takes to the sky will he see what they're doing.
Yeah. Good. And what stage are you up to with that one?
At this point, we've done quite a detailed treatment, but we haven't gone to script yet.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ari, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just as not being Netflix, why Netflix? And why do you think it would benefit itself from being on streaming rather than being in cinemas?
Yeah, I guess when we say a Netflix original, we use that in terms of understanding the type of film it is.
Yeah, I think when you say Netflix, you get a good idea of tone and structure.
Yeah.
I think we picked Netflix because I think last year it housed like 56 Christmas films. It has a huge viewer base already, and we know we would have an audience that would watch it. But I think we're open to possibilities.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Deb?
I've done a Christmas special for Miss Fisher. It's a murder mystery special, so it wasn't a feature, but I know there is a big, people love them. I don't know why they love them. I was in Palm Springs around Christmas time and channel flicking, and all the Christmas shows look the same. They're all about, everyone's wearing red, and they're always about romances. That always come good. But I think you're right, we're absolutely overdue for an Australian version. But I wondered, because you have such elements in there, I'm thinking of the kind of rules of your world in terms of the magical elements of it and the real world elements of it. How did you thrash that out? Because you've got, I'm in the mining, the politics of the mining and the water and everything's quite gritty, social kind of realist stuff. And Father Christmas and the flying kangaroos is not at all. So how have you thrashed that out? Have you discussed that a lot? Like what level of reality, like what the rules of this world are, and when did you decide to go off the Richter scale with the magic?
I think we always describe it as we have such a familiar outback setting that you've seen in Australia, but then you're giving these practical larrikin kind of people Santa Claus, and you're asking them to believe in the absolutely unbelievable. So I think that's what excites us most about this film. It's mixing the very real with the absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I guess it makes the assumption, because the audience is, the target audience is 18 to 34 because that's who views. But if it was a family film, you've got kids. And so for the world up there that is with the political side, which sort of appeals to an adult audience, but for their world, in this world, Santa is real and does have that little bit of magic. He's just the fish out of water. He's in Australia and he hates the heat. Thus he flies at night and lives in the North Pole. But for the kids and whatnot, they're fish out of water as well, because they don't know this Santa, they don't know this magic. So I think, we want to keep it as realistic as possible, but then Santa is one of the antagonists who jumps in and stirs the pot.
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have any questions?
Not really. I mean, I'd like to see how you wrangle kangaroos.
This has been a big discussion point for us.
Yeah, we literally said this morning, was why on earth are we pitching a film with kids and animals?
Yeah, it's a good combination.
Yeah.
Anyway, you never let those sort of things put you off. No questions. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you to all our finalists. No one got muted. Was it the fear of the mute, or he just so well prepared that you kept all your pitches under 3 minutes? So now we're at a point where our judges will be moved to a room where they can deliberate. Judges, good luck. Thank you for all of your hard work. And our finalists, again, brilliant. Thank you so much. Fantastic stories, all of you.
Thank you.
I would not, for the life of me, want to be sitting on this judging panel. I would not know where to go. Good luck, everyone. Okay, so before, Ari, I think you're going to make the announcement. Before we make the announcement, I'm just going to remind everyone of what the prize actually includes. So industry connection opportunities through the Australian Writers Guild Pathways Program, script development from acclaimed screenwriter Emma Jansen, invaluable feedback and ongoing guidance from the esteemed judging panel. So did you all hear that, judges? I'm sure that Amanda will be a reminder of that. The Screenworks annual membership, which is primo. Australian Writers Guild annual membership, again primo, AACTA annual membership, which is again primo, and 2 tickets to the 2020 AACTA Awards. So, Ari, I'm going to hand over to you to announce the winner of this pitching competition.
Of course. Well, thank you again for pitching. After a bit of deliberation, we were continually just discussing our thoughts on all of them. And I think we also agreed before Ivan said he would link us up with all of you to discuss everything in further detail. And I'm happy to continue emailing and getting a phone call. But I think we all decided as well together that we thought that Georgina's film Blackbird was our favourite.
Oh my God! Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh my God! I really can't believe it. They were all such great pictures. Thank you so much.
No problem. I mean, for us, we all thought that it was really optimistic, a lot of fun. You can see, I could definitely see my grandmother going to the film and just loving it. It was, it was very personal. It had links, real topics now like dementia. And I guess at its heart, most importantly, it was Australian, which I think is also, of course, very important. And what Umbrella is looking for and something that we would be very interested in distributing, for sure.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I'm beyond excited. Am I supposed to say something?
You are.
First of all, I just think that all the finalists, they're all such great ideas. And I just went up to my family in the 10-minute break and they said, "What do you reckon, Mum? Were you the best?" And I was like, "No, we're all so good." To have had the opportunity to pitch in front of these judges I already feel really great about that. And I genuinely mean that. Congratulations to you all. And I hope you take keep working on your projects. Don't give up, just, keep working hard and keep believing in them. I'm super excited. Thanks to Screenworks and AACTA. I know how the great work that Screenworks done. I've been up and I've been with Ken and Lisa and worked on the Athena project with them, and they work so hard and they are so passionate about what they do in developing regional films. So thank you guys for the initiative. Thank you to AACTA. It's great now to meet you guys and to be a part of that family as well. I'm super excited about being part of the Writers Guild Pathways program. I can't tell you, I'm a member of the Writers Guild and I'm so excited about being in that special club, and to be working with Emma Jensen and working on, it's just perfect timing for me. I've been doing this for a long time. I just turned 50 last year, and had kids late and just getting back in the game in the last couple of years. So it takes a long time, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'm really ready to grab this opportunity and take this project to the next level, because I feel like it is part of me, and I think it's important to have part of you in your project. So if you're working on something that doesn't have a part of you, then, really think about that, because I've tried a few times to fit in the box and give people what they think they want, and it hasn't worked for me. So now I'm really excited that the project that I really am invested in is moving forward like this. So thank you so much. I'm really so excited.
Thank you. And just adding to what Ari said, we're really keen to give any feedback to other projects. We really enjoyed reading them and have a lot of thoughts and hope you keep working on them. So whatever we can do to propel them, we're very happy to.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. Just to our other finalists, we will be connecting you to all our judges to provide you with that feedback. So commiserations, but congratulations, Georgina.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone involved.
It's over to me to say thank you again to everyone. Thank you to our judges, Michelle, Ari, Deb, Amanda, for being so engaged and for taking the time. Thank you to all of the finalists. As I said, I spent too many years watching too many films for too long, and each and every one of those pitches I would happily love to see get to the end game and see on a screen somewhere sometime, because they're also vastly different, such mature stories, so beautifully thought out and so worthy of actually hitting our screens, no matter what size. Thank you to the AACTA team, Hayley and Ivan, and thank you to the Screenworks team, Ken and Lisa.
thank you to you, Peter, as well. Thank you so much for hosting today and getting us
look, a
through it
pleasure.
all. I really appreciate it. Thank you from Screenworks, and congratulations to everyone, especially Georgina. Thank you.
Thank
Congrats,
you.
everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Bye,
all.
everyone.
Congrats.
Well,